to the Holiday Inn. Hello friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies it's just a fact, and it's totally science. Go ahead and look it up. Today we're jumping into r/TalesofNeckbeards. This is indeed the second story for the day. I haven't been posting a second story usually. It's basically all just dependent on my mental state that day. It's like, do I have it in me to get a second story out there? Well, guess what? Today, I definitely do. I'm full of vinegar. I'm looking forward to Serpentbeard Part 2. Shouts out to user Electrical Fennec, aka Ryga, in the Discord. If you've seen him, he's now got that sexy collaborator role. Fedora-clad collaborators. Yes, indeed. This story will make all of us either extremely happy or probably extremely sad, considering the events of the last video, which, if you haven't seen, the link is in the description as always. I hope you check it out, but it is a heavy one. I even made the title extremely heavy. Luckily, YouTube didn't demonetize me for it quite yet, but that might just be around the corner. I guess we'll see. But the story must be told, and so it shall be. But first, we'll get some plugs and disclaimers out of the way, and then we will dive right into some Serpentbeard cringe. The Saga of Serpentbeard, Part 2, The Perils of PyCon. Not safe for work warning. Probably should have had that on the last post. Did we have that on the last post? I think we did, to be fair. The names of the people involved have been changed. The events and locations described within have not. I seem to get something of a fair amount of positive reception from the first part of this tale, so I think it's a good time to go ahead and tell the second, the meatiest part of this story. This is the part where everything really started to get bad with the one that I refer to as Serpentbeard. Strap in. This one will be long and less than pleasant for both of us. Ah, crap. It's gonna be a sad story today, isn't it? Don't tell me that. Like I always say, you're brave enough to write it, I'm brave enough to read it. So as with before, meet the cast. Fennec, protagonist narratio, the person weaving this tale. At this point, I was starting to come out of my shell a little bit more, becoming less deeply introverted. This was helped by some friends made through certain online fur gathering sites. I was also still bi-curious at this point, a trait that was unceremoniously thrown right out the window of our convention hotel room. God. Still nerdy as all get out, named for my online avatar, a sparky, hyperactive Fennec Fox. Serpentbeard, Neckbeardicus forktungicus, the monster for which this tale is named, and it was during this trip that I learned just how beardy he really was, despite not yet being familiar with the term neckbeard. Overweight, sexually depraved, and willing to try and drag others into his world of depravity. He was the boyfriend of one individual named Flaps, and Serpentbeard was so named for his Naga avatar and his love of snakes, and also because he is a snake. Flaps, Bottomus Bitchicus, Serpentbeard's boyfriend, both are bisexual. Despite being complicit in some of the goings-on, he was actually a pretty good guy, and is someone that I don't blame for the way that things played out at all. If I didn't think that it would put me in direct contact with Serpentbeard again, I would probably still be pals with him. But alas, he was named after his winged elf angel avatar, Fennec Dad, Paternitus Divorcicum, my at the time recently divorced father, whom I was living with at the time of the trip, and the man who was willing to shell out the money for the plane ticket to Connecticut, at the time at least, as an attempted show of goodwill after years of poor parenting. Not a villain at this point in time, in fact, had turned into quite the opposite. Fennec Mom, Maternitus Policia, a badass mom, and one that I still love dearly to this day, had split away from Fennec Dad after a long rough patch following his stroke. Aw, that's fucking rough, man. But I guess, yeah, people want to be happy. I'm not going to judge based on that one sentence, but man, that hit me right in the feels. Always encouraged my interactions with online friends. Also, a hell of a forensic specialist. And we have Utafa, Pervicus Nerdicum, my best friend as of writing, 17 years. One of the biggest dorks that I know, and that's coming from a dork. We've never had a true fight in our time interacting, and he, as always, provided my most consistent source of interaction while at the con. At this point, we had exchanged phone numbers for when IM wasn't an option. Select your stage. The story took place in both the Oregon and Washington border area, aka the Columbia River, all the way down to Portland, Oregon, and in the farthest overly verdant area of Connecticut, at a hotel hosting a nerd convention called PyCon. I want to say that for all of the talking up of the convention that Serpentbeard gave me in flaps, it was a train wreck. Oh, I love train wrecks. Absolutely horrible. Even less professional than the dreaded DashCon. I have no basis for comparison, but feed me some cringe! With all that out of the way, it is time to tell the second part of my tale. The Saga of Serpentbeard Part 2, The Perils of PyCon. Now, for those who are just joining us, I will briefly touch on the details that led to this point. I got an Xbox 360 at the recommendation of Utafa, picked up some games, and got into the online RPG called Phantasy Star Universe. I made friends with Serpentbeard and a man named Claude, who wasn't involved for this story. Thank God he escaped this. I joined the Furdom along with Serpentbeard, who started to act more sexually questionable, culminating in him taking an offhand comment about me eating my own spooge if we ended up being the only attendees to his precious PyCon as a serious bet, and threatening to end our friendship if I didn't follow through on it. He ended up recording me doing it, not sure how with the 360 camera, but he did prove it to me by showing me the video later. My guess is he guerrilla style recorded it with like a digital camcorder of some sort. And now, of course, he had blackmail material on me if I pissed him off. Literally the only reason that I didn't cancel my trip then and there. Alright, the logic's following then. I was a bit concerned about that in the last story. I'm like, you're gonna go to meet this guy? Why? Well, because he's gonna dump the video if you don't. Ah, what a mess. Totally aligns with Stealthbeard. I think I also said that in the last episode. But it's very Stealthbeardy to me. At this time, things were already pretty rough for me. In the previous year, we'd stopped playing Phantasy Star Universe due to drops in the number of people. Not that I minded, because Serpentbeard had grown an obnoxious habit of giving me a demeaning nickname anytime I changed my player's character color. To elaborate, my character's parts were admittedly very Mega Man in appearance, so when I once changed to the color blue for a change from Fennec's old yellow color, he immediately called me Mega Man. When I changed it back, he now called me Thunderpants Mega Man. Haha, fart joke, original. Violet, Purple Nurple Mega Man. Green, Sick Bag Mega Man. Red, Period Blood Mega Man. Blue again, to just accept the nickname. Nope, now it was Blue Balls Mega Man. This is so dumb. Oh God. It's exactly the stuff kids would do, but like, if he's bugging you that much, then why not just pull the plug on the friendship? Especially if you're like super introverted. What are you gonna do? Show the spooge eating video to like the 3 people that I talked to? Okay, they know that I got coerced into something weird. Now can we move on? And Serpentbeard actually got me to stop using my character entirely. Just like that. God, that sucks. It was something you still enjoyed, and this dude's just like ruining it. Still not as bad as what he did in the last episode, but we're only on the tip of the iceberg, I do think. At this time, my mother and father, Fennec Mom and Fennec Dad, were getting a divorce since the previous July after Fennec Dad made the dumb mistake of accusing her of not loving him anymore at our family reunion. Bum bum ba bum. Wow. That's my Price is Right losing horns. It's close enough. Yeah, maybe not the best timing for such an accusation. Regardless, Despite being the one who the farm belonged to, he ended up the one kicked out of the house, temporarily. When Mom moved out to be with the man that she'd found, Dad moved back in. Oh, it's a mess. I remained in this house just because of the trip that was coming up. Not that my father knew this. He was devastated that I was going to still move out in the future, but that shock to his system ultimately was what turned into the catalyst for him turning himself around as a person. Yeah, I guess all things happen for a reason. Okay. I was going to throw some shade on Fennec Mom, but I'm trying not to judge after 3 sentences. There's a reason for all of this. Deep breath. This is not the conflict of the story. At this time, though, things were still really rough for myself and my mother. On top of this, my sister had recently moved away to the area of Illinois. Her story could go into a Reddit post of its own if I could figure out the right place to put an abusive boyfriend tale. Nice guys, neckbeards, take your pick. But this isn't the time to tell a story such as that. All that matters is that half of my family, at least the half that I still liked at the time, was gone. And I was left with one family member that I didn't like, solely because I couldn't uproot immediately due to my plane ticket. To Fennec Dad's credit, though, when he realized how far away he had pushed us all, he was the one who ultimately paid for my ticket as a show of goodwill. Might be too little too late, my dude. The divorce is over. The family split. I guess it's good to try and recover what you can. But now, fast forward to the day of my trip. I was going to be gone for 5 days, and I had no good measure of what would be a reasonable amount of money to bring with me. Foolish me, I only brought about $200. This is important later. Only 200? But you had your debit card, right? At the time, my bank account had only given me an ATM card. This will come into play later. So there I was at the Portland airport, checking in with my father nearby. When checking in, they mentioned the charge to check my baggage, a $25 charge. Oh dear. Fennec Dad noticed my concern and was nice enough to give them the money instead, nodding to me. This was much appreciated, and the two of us spent a little time at one of the restaurants in the terminal before I made my way to the scanner and then to my gate. I gave Fennec Dad a hug and passed through the checkpoint without incident. Now, I will admit that this being my first flight, I was nervous as hell, but the flight itself was actually surprisingly swift and without any undue stress. I didn't know why people were so nervous about flying at this point. Oh, turbulence, crash into a mountain, some shit like that. No, but really, it's great. It's super safe. When I landed in Hartford, Connecticut, it took a little bit of time before I found Serpentbeard and Flaps waiting out front with a sign for me. Flaps was particularly friendly and welcoming. I won't lie that seeing him in person was a little bit jarring because I hadn't realized in the lone vid chat that we'd had before that he looked a lot like a friend I had from high school, and I was glad to finally meet an online friend in person. And then Serpentbeard welcomed me. Now, Serpentbeard had to have some kind of ritual spell cast on his Xbox camera because it didn't show the horribly patchy acne face that he had. And his lighting didn't show how pasty he really was either. You know the stereotypical nerd acne look in media? Now slap that on a blob of duck fat, roughly 300 pounds in size. Dude looked like if John Panette was raped by Coach Buzzcut. That's a good description. Then had a baby with Syria pizza face. By the way, rest in peace, John Panette. We miss you. On top of that, he smelled horrific. Rather than shower, it smelled like he'd taken a whole bottle of Bod fragrance spray, unscrewed the cap, and just decided to let that do the work by pouring it onto himself, like putting a bundle of rotting daisies on a garbage scow. His facial hair was rat-like and equally patchy, and he had some kind of slick layer of oil on his body. How do I know it was oil? Well, when you take a grip of someone's hand... Ooh, first mistake.
Hey, Fennec, it's good to meet you in person,
he said with a grin, showing permanently yellow teeth. Same, Serpentbeard, I replied as I shook his hand. When he went to climb into the driver's seat of the car, I quickly wiped my hand onto the side of the car with a shutter. There was no way I was getting that stuff on my own clothes. When I went to open up the trunk and put my luggage in, I noticed a large black crate. A couple of them, actually. Hey, what's this? I asked.
Oh, Serpentbeard brought supplies for our stay at the hotel.
Flap spoke up. Oh, good. Food, perhaps? Well, we'll see about that in a moment. I loaded my bag and we made our way from the airport to the Holiday Inn. Now I want to mention that having been to KomoriCon in previous years before this, I had a certain expectation. A large space, capable of hosting a convention. Certainly one that would allow for plenty of movement and interactions. Fennec, you idiot. This hotel was tiny. And I mean really tiny. And the whole time we were at this convention, I recall seeing very few other nerds roaming the halls. As for panels, none of those either. Or at least none that Serpentbeard could be bothered to bring me or Flaps to. All we really got was a game room with a bunch of nerdy board and card games. Normally I'd be all for that, especially having gotten into D&D as recently as I had. I think I'd just gotten into the group with Fluffy and Spider at this point, but the game selection was weak at best.
You guys want to play Uno?
The only game I recall playing was Zombie Dice, and while that was fun, it was only a small fun activity that we shared while at the con itself. Even the dealer setup was disappointing. There were only a few hotel rooms set up at this convention for dealers to sell their wares in. I will admit, what little I saw at the con was cool, but I couldn't buy anything because I had brought so little money. Now, remember those supplies that Serpentbeard had provided? When we first arrived and went to our hotel room, I learned that it was all junk food. No real meals, just junk food. And his soda stream. To his credit, he did buy water, a lot of it. It was summer after all, and we needed to stay hydrated. That's important. But the fact that he thought that the junk food was enough was, to be frank, idiotic. If he had thought ahead, he might have packed some lunch meat for decent sandwiches. But no, just candy, chips, and the like. Especially the Cadbury cream eggs. Gods above, the Cadbury cream eggs. They were pretty good when I was 8. Now they're not so good anymore. I've outgrown them a bit. This guy seemed to think that that was the greatest candy on the planet, as he had bought cases of them with him. And I want to go on record that I think that Cadbury cream eggs are the worst candy in the history of mankind. And yes, I'm including circus peanuts in that. Oh snap, coming at the circus peanuts? Bro, we gotta have problems. Let's just all agree on candy corn, okay? I've never liked the taste or texture of these candy albumin abortions. And I never will. I will say that I do like the chocolate cream-filled eggs, but there's something unnaturally plastic about the basic Cadbury cream's flavor. And Serpentbeard would just shovel these things into his mouth whole. Yeah, really. He swallowed these things without even bothering to chew them. Well, I guess given he's a snake, it can't be that much of a surprise. Flaps was a little more ambivalent about the cream eggs, but I was less than pleased about the junk food supply cart. To their credit, they had also brought along entertainment in the form of consoles for us to play. I won't lie, that was pretty cool. Heck, Flaps showed me a couple of cool games on the GameCube that I would have never played otherwise. Custom Robo, play Custom Robo. Speaking of entertainment though, Serpentbeard grabbed a bag and pulled out a long, oddly shaped object and slapped it suction side down on a nearby table in the hotel room. Oh, no. I felt my blood run cold. It was what he described as a dagger-shaped dildo. Fucking bad dragon. Psycho horror chords. Ree, ree, ree. See, I'm doing all that waves and MP3s with my mouth. It's probably horrible, but I'm trying.
So then, I remembered that you said you were bi-curious, so I brought this bad boy along. I thought you might like to, give it a try.
Serpentbeard hissed out with a smile that I can only describe as somewhere between a Cheshire cat and a child molester. God. Really painting the picture here. I wanted to scream. I really did. But I had a distinct feeling that if I did, then that aforementioned video from the past story that I told would come to light. All I could do was stare down at the horrible, elongated, rubber snake shaft. I think Flaps realized something was amiss because he immediately stepped in and placed his hand on Serpentbeard's shoulder.
Hey, let's go down to the car. I think you forgot a couple of things.
Oh, right. My bond spray and soap.
Soap? Nobody's buying that. He grunted out as he and Flaps went back down to the parking lot. I snapped out of it, ran into the bathroom, locked the door behind me, and cried as I called Fennec Mom, Fennec Dad, and Utafa, blubbering like a baby about how I already wanted to come home, and I hated being so far away from Dalsport. Fennec Mom and Utafa were very understanding of the situation, but I made the mistake of not calling Fennec Dad first, because while Fennec Mom had managed to calm me a bit, Fennec Dad, in his infinite wisdom, decided to say,
Yeah, well, I get that. With any luck, the airlines won't be shut down by the time your flight's on the way back.
Dad, what are you talking about?
I mean, you never know. The way the country's going to hell, the airline industry could be shut down at a moment's notice, and you'd be stranded there.
Yeah, maybe the dad is a bit of a mess, isn't he? I know I said Fennec Dad was growing as a person, but never had I hated my father more than at that very moment. My call to Utafa managed to bring me back from the brink of a mental stress breakdown, as he assured me that there's no way the airline industry was just gonna shut down out of nowhere like that. When I finally calmed myself down, I just sat in the bathroom and reflected for a bit. I tick-a-tapped on the Skype app a little bit, talking with some friends who will be more consequential in the final part, especially Fluffy. When the others got back, we spent some time playing video games, which was admittedly nice, and Flaps and I got to watch some videos through the 360's YouTube app. For what it's worth, though the bad stuff was really bad, the good parts were still a welcome presence. I don't recall all the meals that we had there, but the first night we went for Pizza Hut, which I paid for. And then the next nightmare happened. After a rather uneventful first day of PyCon the following evening, we went back to our room after a trip to a local restaurant. Serpentbeard paid for this one, and we did the video game then vid watch ritual once again. I got tired midway through one video and lay down on the fold-out couch in the room. Of course, Serpentbeard and Flaps shared the bed. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it wouldn't make sense to not share a bed with your significant other. And my slumber was interrupted by squeaking sounds. No. Followed by what I can only describe as the howl of a ghost orca. My eyes slowly opened. To my great horror, I saw a whale on top of an overweight shaved cat. Or at least that was what my mind perceived for all of 2 seconds before it was clear that it was actually Serpentbeard having a go at Flaps. Well, you already know. Needless to say, I was horrified at seeing Serpentbeard taking the exit-only ramp on his boyfriend. So all I could do was quickly roll over and scream internally. Oh, this get cringe. As the sounds of flab on flab continued for 20 minutes. Oh, God. Oh, miraculously, they hadn't seen me wake up and see their intimacy. If they had, I would almost certainly have been made to join them. All I could do was try to desperately cry myself back into sleep amidst the sounds of beached whales mating. Curb your enthusiasm. The remaining days went relatively normal. I tried to find activities to partake in at the con, came up empty, went back to the room, played video games, watched videos with the others, went to dinner, ate the subpar junk food choices, and so on. We went to Panera Bread on one night. It was aight, nothing to write home about. I like Panera pretty good, but yeah, you should go to them mom and pop restaurants, you know? You know what you're getting at a chain shop. If you go to a mom and pop, you might get horrible slop, but you might get ambrosia from the gods. And then you got the best kept secret in Connecticut. Ain't that right? We did have to make a stop at Target for some supplies at one point. We burned through the water pretty quick. And at this point, I was asked to chip in quite a bit on those supplies. I was hesitant because I knew that I would need some money for the trip back home, but it didn't seem unreasonable. On the drive back, I asked Serpentbeard about his life at home. I remember very distinctly that he had nothing but complaints about his mother.
My bitch of a mom told me she wants me to get a job and pay rent soon, or she's gonna kick me out the street,
He says.
But I stole her credit card to pay for this rental car, so it all shakes out.
Bro, it's like the dumbest thing you can do. She's mad at me, so I'm gonna make her even more mad. Jesus. I want to make this very clear. I have nothing but respect and love for my mother, and to hear him talking about her really got under my skin, because I couldn't fathom someone having such disdain for their parents. Even though I wasn't on good terms with my dad at this point, I still loved and respected him because he brought me into the world, and I remembered the times before his stroke changed his personality. But to admit to stealing her credit card to make his little road trip happen? Yeesh. Serpentbeard almost made me sock him in the head right there, but I didn't. Mostly because he was driving, and I like not being twizzlered around a tree. I let it go, and the last 2 days went about the same. I'd gotten out of PyCon with about $45 in my wallet, just enough to get myself a meal on the ground before my flight, so we all agreed to go to this place called Friendly's. As I understand it, it's the East Coast equivalent to the chain in my neck of the wood called Sherry's. Good food, but more emphasis on the desserts. I had a pretty good burger and a shake, as did Flaps and Serpentbeard. We talked about the things that happened, and despite myself, I really did enjoy more things than I didn't. And then the check came, and Serpentbeard said one damning sentence.
So, you got this one right, Fennec?
I stared at him. What? Dude, I have like $45 on me, I explained. I knew that above anything, I would need 25 of that, and my meal alone was $13.
Yeah, and I paid for dinner yesterday,
Serpentbeard said firmly, glaring back at me. Don't you mean your mom paid for dinner on her fucking credit card? She didn't know she paid for dinner. Flaps, to his credit, tried to defuse the situation.
Hey, Serpent, come on, man. I'll pay for it today,
he said kindly. I will never deny that where Serpentbeard lacked in social graces, Flaps more than made up for it.
You're not paying for anything, hon,
Serpentbeard responded sternly.
Fennec is. Isn't that right?
I knew that tone. It was the same one that he used back when he recorded the blackmail footage. My blood once again ran cold. Defeated, I pulled out the remaining money that I had and placed it on the table. Defeat sucks.
Was that so hard?
That goddamn phrase again. Fucking Serpentbeard. After that, I had a $5 bill left, which Serpentbeard took.
Gas money.
Seems like you have enough gas as it is. That's a fart joke. And a broken spirit. Or I would have had a broken spirit if I didn't see something like this coming and hide a 20 and a 5 in my sock. Fennec! You have officially earned your fox nickname. That's dumb like a fox. Good move. I love it. I said nothing the rest of the way to the airport for my return flight. I got out of the vehicle, grabbed my luggage, and moved to leave.
Wait!
Serpentbeard called out.
You should take some of the water with you. You don't want to drink that nasty water fountain stuff after all.
Seems nice until you remember that he's going into a freaking airport. Now, at the time, I was not aware of how airports entirely worked, never having traveled on a plane before now, and I also hadn't heard any of the stories. I know that that's hard to believe, but I agreed, taking a few bottles and stuffing them in my vest. God. I should have known something was up when I saw that damn child molester Cheshire Cat smile on Serpentbeard's face again, or when Flaps looked concerned, but whatever. I walked inside, stealthily pulled out the 20 from my sock, and checked in, paying for my bag's check fee and heading to the security checkpoint. When I put the vest on the conveyor belt and walked through, they almost detained me for having 4 water bottles. I was completely unaware of the liquid limitations on modern flights. I explained myself quickly and asked if I could just throw them away, and thankfully they understood and let me do so. I called Utafa from inside the terminal and told him what happened. Wait, you didn't know that liquids aren't allowed past airport security? No? Huh. Well, chalk that up to another Serpentbeard moment, huh? Yeah. I returned to Portland Airport that evening, picked up by my father, and returned home to our little farm in Dalesport. While the trip was massively soured by the actions of Serpentbeard, Flaps, at the very least, did his best to make it pleasant for me when we were hanging out in the hotel room, and I'm thankful for that. And thanks to having shaken my previous fear of flying with my first trip, I was able to begin making regular trips to Florida to visit Utafa and attend a much bigger and better convention, ShadowCon. So, as with the last tale, while my interactions with Serpentbeard were unpleasant in this tale, they ultimately helped me to grow once again as a person. In some sense, I have to thank him for helping me to shed my skin and become more comfortable with myself. The last story, however, has no such silver lining, being a tale of pure infuriating assholery and my ultimate excising of this snake-like tumor from my social life. I want to thank you for sticking with me this long, and I hope that you'll come along to experience the final chapter of the Saga of Serpentbeard, part number 3 of Wolves and Whistles. Thank you once more for reading along, and remember to take care of yourselves. And if you have a tale of your own to tell, be sure to get it off your chest. You'll feel better in the long run. Once again, for now, see you, Space Cowboy. Well, it's an awkward one. It's nowhere near as awkward as the first story was, so I guess I'm grateful for that. I think he really was going to try and make you sit down on that snake dick, though. So it's good that Flaps was there to kind of have your back. Maybe I shouldn't have given him a beard voice after all. He seems like a pretty chill dude, all things considered. Kind of diverting attention and running interference when he needs to. So while he is a part of it, you know, I do understand not being able to like speak up and completely stop a situation, but you can at least make it better. I felt so bad that he punked you at dinner for that last little bit of money that you had. I assumed that you were going to have to leave a bag at the airport or something like that, which that's just ridiculous. But old Fennec, man, this dude is 10 steps ahead. I love that little twist. That was a feel-good moment in a field of basically nothingness aside from a little bit of douchebaggery. I mean, I like junk food. I like playing video games, but I want to do those things in a place that I'm comfortable. Not a crappy hotel room at a convention where I don't really know anybody except for these 2 creeps. Like, it's just a bad vibe all around. And then the fact that you can't eat anything besides the junk food, that has to be so enraging. Like, bro, I need some protein, okay? I need some sustenance. What's going on here? Jesus. But I will be excited to hear how Ryga, aka Fennec, gets Serpentbeard out of his life if the video comes to light or something like that. These blackmail stories are super interesting. I should probably reach out to Solid Adept and see what's going on with that stealth beard thing, but I don't want to be too pushy, you know what I mean? So I'll probably just wait on it. It'll get here when it gets here. There's no rush in art, okay? But the final part for Serpentbeard is up, as a matter of fact, so I expect to be wrapping that up within the next couple of days. I got Bowlerbeard, I got Ramtide waiting in the wings, so we probably knock those two out, and then we get Serpentbeard back in here to cut the head off, as it were. But I do hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I hope that you like, comment, and or subscribe. Check out them links in the description. We got all kinds of stuff. Wifey's channel, Mr. and Mrs. ReddX. We just put up a new video with my son playing with a fish. It's kind of short, but I mean, it's content, so I'd appreciate it if you guys gave it a look. There's also all kinds of other plugs and social medias and stuff, and of course, my gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful, generous patrons, and I would like to thank them all as always, but especially Calvicus, Fatboy Shrimp, Robert Waits, TSM Kirby, Teddy the Police, Aaron W, Delicious Jelly Donut, Candy Sora, Fire Drake, Livison, Silent Revolver, Zathra, Zero MMX, Little Lone Wolf, Vanilla Mel, Rouse Tower, Caustic Fox, Derpy Tricks, Aaron Lennox, Fisher Diggy, Hat Japan, OG James Cook, JM Coon, Jerry, John Hero, KK, Miss Monday, Magdalene Marshall Thornrose, Melgar the Destroyer, Mirthful Baker, Mr. J, my boy Nat One Nick, Lady Nix, Katykins and Elizabeth, Sidestep, Cider Drinker, Serrated Ass, Siegfried, Steampunk Ellie, Synaptic Boomstick, Brilliant Tamago, Tato Fared, That Duck and Bug, Fusky, Treeberg, Redwind, Goose S. Honk, Leon Embers, Naga Viper, John Indoors, A Normal Joe, A Rock Source, Cake Jerry, that's a different Jerry. Take a breath. Crafty Kitty Cat, Mark 211, maybe next time, Orgamic Cam, Princess Rosalie, Ghosty, The Last Shinobi, and the Maestro himself, Zuka Cervantes. Thank you guys, as always, for helping to support the channel. Who knows how this video go with the demonetization, but if it goes the bad way, I know that my patrons got my back, and I am eternally grateful for that. I hope some other folks out there will consider supporting, but if you can't right now, don't sweat it too hard, friends. I just appreciate you coming on through, hanging out with me, and I hope that you come on back and hang out with me again tomorrow, because really, it's not even words. In order to join us again, you need to keep yourself safe out there. Wash your hands, but also take some time out and do something that you personally enjoy today. Maybe watch some old ReddX videos, yo, if you want. And please always remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, and you definitely deserve it. I will see you in the next one, and until then, bye-bye.